Okay.
Now we good. All right, call this session of the Randall School Board to order on Monday, May 18th at 5:31 p.m. Attendance roll call. Miss, I had it last time, like on my screen.
You
Right.
did.
Miss Gorkowski.
Yes.
There you go.
Here, present.
Mr. Nolan.
Here.
Miss Storr.
Here.
Mrs. Thornton.
Present.
Mr. Swanson. Present. Do we have to do executive roll call too?
You can just say that serves.
Okay, that
That
serves as the
serves as our-
executive roll call.
yep.
Verification of meeting being posted.
Correct. Yes.
All right, and Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Need the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And adoption of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And treasurer's report.
So we have everything there. Vouchers is last from April 20th to May 15th was $206,000. We did just a whole check back. It's been higher than other ones. Last year was like 348, 228, so it's in the ballpark. We also have some things not processed as much just because we're in between them, so everything's up to date.
Need an approval.
I move to approve the treasurer's report and vouchers payable as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Citizens' comments.
We have none.
Have no citizens' comments. Celebrations.
Just a couple of updates. Celebrations, track and field had their conference title, so this is just their little collective picture from the event. So thanks to the coaches who helped that, as well as the students. And I think, what creates a dynamic when you leave in the afternoons, kids running 400s around the parking lot. But they did a good job. A lot of good athletes in the school, so hopefully that translates up for high school as well too. And then our chess club, which was started I think last year, maybe the year before.
A couple years.
Just again, just a different opportunity for kids that maybe aren't into the sports or maybe both. So just the tournament took place. You can see our winner there in the middle, and then Miss Fisher, who's helped run that for the last couple of years as well too. And then kids end with kind of like an all-school tournament. So
How many people are in the chess club? You don't mind me asking.
I think there were just under 30 this year.
Okay.
Over 20 something.
Yeah, so we've been about that number every year, somewhere around there. So
Look bigger this year.
yeah, we've been maybe plus or minus.
That's a nice number, though. That's a good number for a club. At least it's not 5, where you're trying to start off saying, is it really worth it?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and again, trying to offer as much as we can, being the size that we are, but give kids different opportunities across the board. So.
What about robotics?
It's not in there, but they just recently went to a competition of some
They're
sort.
at Gateway.
Yeah, and
They're
they
still wrapping up their
but
work.
we had
Big
one
dance
of our teams like win the whole thing. So that was a big
Yeah.
celebration. And the other week, I think I put it in the s'more
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it was on-
background.
That was on Facebook, our social and page. So,
I just figured we were celebrating and thought that was something we should celebrate as well.
100%. I had it down to see if I could get somebody, like one of the teachers, well, not to come in June, just because the summer months get a little light. But yes, absolutely, robotics should be celebrated. I think they had 3 first place and like 1
Yeah.
second place.
We had a lot of people place, and then our one team took like everything.
Yep.
So
Very cool.
Definitely worth celebrating.
1,000%.
All right, DA report.
So Ms. Garcia is here this evening, so she's going to start off, and I will just take your cues.
yeah, those will my computers.
But I can move it. So thanks, Al.
Yeah. All right, I like this time better. Do you have access to this presentation? Can you
I
see this?
do not know. Thank you. But
Okay.
I have it up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just this evening, I'm gonna go through 2 things, the iReady Girl Scores, because we're almost complete, but we have solid enough data. We took the fall diagnostic, the winter diagnostic, and now we just took the spring, so there's some really good data I wanna share with you about student growth. And then just a brief update about our school leadership team. That was a new iteration of what SAIL was, which is like our school strategic planning group that includes staff. So As a reminder from our last school report card, our school ranks in the 79th percentile for overall student achievement. That is praiseworthy, that is wonderful. However, next slide. Our school ranks in the bottom 30th percentile for growth. So that is, to me, our value added as a system of how much we're growing kids. We have high achieving kids, but how much are we growing them from that? And that is something that our data will speak to, and that has been a priority area for the school this year. This graph just sums up in general, we want the boxes to be dark shaded blue to the right side of that line. So these are Randall's measures compared to all the other schools across the state, but basically when it's dark blue and shaded across that middle line, that means we are scoring higher than average in all these different subgroups. So math has some great areas of success. ELA, we had some areas to work on, and so I really hope with the iReady data I'm about to show you that translates into our next year's school report card. Fingers crossed. You can skip that one. Keep going. Okay, so overall, this was our reading data from our most recent spring iReady survey. And green is good. Red is not good, nothing surprising there, but we have increased the percentage of students who are early on grade level. So that's a student who maybe they're in 3rd or 4th grade, they're at that early 3rd or 4th grade level. You could say that for any grade, they're interchangeable. And mid or above grade level, from 33% in the fall to 77% in our most recent testing. That is a really good indicator that we're getting students at grade level or above. That's what we want. I expect all students to be reading and literate at grade level. We know that we have still some work to do because these colors are actual students, and so we can disaggregate. I didn't for the sake of this meeting, but like who those students are specifically and what plans we're making for them. So that was a really good thing. Next.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask any question.
So we moved from 33% to 77% in grade level, which is awesome. Did our red shrink? Did our yellow shrink? What was the, where did we gain that from?
The red shrank, I can get you all these images. At the start of the year, we were at 7% of students who were 3 or more grade levels below.
Okay.
Now we're at 3.
Okay.
2 or more grade levels below, we were at 12. Now we're at 5. So some quick math, we went from 19% below grade level, 2 or more, to 8.
Awesome.
That's good. And they go this way. So a student who may have been 2 or more grade levels below, some may have jumped to 1 grade level below or early on, but either way we're growing them relative to where they were.
So if I'm looking at those numbers, the bottom numbers are last year. So our green accommodated 33% last year compared to 60
fall.
or fall.
Beginning of the.
And now we're at 71. So we doubled 77.
Yeah.
44 and 27 should be 71, I thought.
Okay, 71.
Okay, sorry, I just, but that's amazing that number doubled.
Yeah.
And then the yellow one, what does yellow represent?
1 grade level below.
So we almost had 50% of our population 1 grade level below, and now we're at 20% only?
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep, this is really, and I'll take it a step further, if you want to go to the next slide. So this was school-wide. This now is elementary. So at elementary, we have increased the percentage of students in that green from 31% to 75%. Now I'm really double checking my math.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's good. Yes,
It's
that
up
is
to
correct.
98,
So,
but that's
at the start of the year, we had 4% of students 3 or more grade levels below. Now we're at 1%. And when you look at 324 students, that's 3 students. Well, 4 students roughly that are in that 3 or more grade levels below. And what are we doing for them? Those are some next questions, of course. We want to continue to close that gap. But again, some really, really impressive growth from our elementary. And then the next one is secondary, so grades 6 through 8. But the caveat here is that 8th graders did not take the final spring diagnostic because they instead took the pre-ACT, which I'll talk about in a minute. We didn't want to over-test them because they would have had forward, this, and the pre-ACT. And we thought the pre-ACT was really valuable for them to go into high school with because their testing is aligned with the ACT. And they will, as 9th graders and 10th graders, be taking that pre-ACT. So they have some baseline data for themselves, their families. their counselors, whichever high school they go to share. So, we still saw some really great growth regardless of the 8th graders not taking that. So at the start of the year, we were at 43% of students in that green grade level area, and now we're at 63. So we moved the 3 or more grade levels below from 14 to 8. Same kind of trends, really good direction. And some people would make the argument, is that due to iReady, is that due to teaching? So correlation is not causation, but they're taking the same, well, not the exact same, but they're taking the diagnostic that's at their grade level. So either way, we're still going in the right direction, whether you wanna credit it to iReady specifically or iReady and the value of the teacher teaching the curriculum, we're trending in the right direction. All right, next slide. This is a really lovely graph that just shows the percent of students in each grade from kindergarten to 7 with improved placement. So whether they shifted from 3 grade levels below to 2 or 2 to 1, but in nearly every grade we have students improving their placement. Kindergarten did a great job, 93% of their students improved the placement, all the way down to our lowest one right now, which was 6th grade with 53%. So in all of those grade levels, we are growing our students, and they're all meeting, aside from 5th grade, which we still have a number to finish, but close, they're all meeting their annual typical growth, which is according to one measure, iReady, of course, but it's still positive data that I hope and I believe will translate into what we see on our school report card, what we see in the growth with forward data, and just what we see in the classroom through teacher observation and students, that the feedback that the actual teacher gives and gets seeing the student real time in the classroom.
Is 6th grade, who had your lowest growth, they still grew, but they had the lowest, was that a grade level that maybe had more at grade level to start and there was less movement that was possible? Do you know why that could be?
I haven't gone, I haven't like
Drilled
thought
yet.
deep
Haven't
into
dug
why.
into it.
Okay.
This is all like
Yep,
first
that,
blush.
that's a good
Right.
Okay.
hypothesis.
Because that's where I go, right? Like if you're at 70% and you grow 5%, that's better than being at 25% and getting to 35%, but it looks like a bigger growth.
And the other thing I think that would be good, we can pull, we haven't, but like look at, because this will be the 3rd year. This is the 3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at some cohort data
Yeah.
or like grade level trends. One of the tricky things with iReady is it rolls your data over, so you just have to kind of make sure you
Make
capture
your own graphs
before
and
you
trends.
move.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it does provide, like I agree with Alex, like it doesn't guarantee anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it shows growth, it shows good growth. And it shows, this is like sustaining a little bit.
for sure.
So,
Yeah, because now that you're going to 77%, like you shouldn't have a goal of 10% growth. That number's a much harder 10% to hit than when
That's
you're
almost impossible.
exactly like
And-
you're gonna.
But doable, because the every kid
All
matters.
right, okay, so
Yeah.
while we're on the doable, I got a question if you don't mind.
no, go ahead.
Those students in the red section, have we lost any students? What I mean by that is, have we had any students that have fallen farther behind this year than, it may not be data you actually have right now, but it'd be interesting to find out if everything's pointing in the right direction. Have we had any students go backwards? Because those are ones that
Yeah.
don't know if what you're gonna ever do for that.
Well, you might be concerned about it because if it's not academic related, are there other things
Are
going
there
on?
other things going on?
Distracting
Exactly.
them from school.
Yep.
I think, and I'm just joining you, but like the primary grades, I think with Act 20, there's so much more monitoring taking place than ever before. So you're really gonna be able to kind of look at some of the students and go, okay, we're gonna have these XYZ interventions put in place because one, you should, and two, we have to. Also, some of the scores with iReady historically, and Alex will counter this, and I mean that in a good way, but like, as kids take it, and they've taken it, or whatever, MAPS or iReady from kindergarten on, there is a little bit of frustration
I
that
don't
comes
wanna
in
do
sometimes.
this, test fatigue.
But that then relies on the teachers to be like, hey, this is really important for you to help you figure out where you need to go when you're gonna go to high school. So those are the conversations that I think are taking place more and more, and hopefully they're taking place.
Yeah, I think we're looking at iReady, and I can't speak to years past, but just intentionally and very systematically. Like, it's not just a one thing off, it's incorporated into what we do and how we talk about our growth.
So we basically changed our curriculum to teach to the test? Or is the test, are we truly staying on our own independent path of curriculum we feel is the best? And the test results just happen to have been very positive for our school with the curriculum and staff choices that we have.
I think that there's been a greater amount of cohesion this year, like why we use the curricular resource review, how they're aligned, and making sure that a student who is in intervention, for instance, for any part of their day, that what they do in intervention is aligned to what's going on in the classroom, so it's not a one-off. So for instance, if they're working on something as simple as addition in class, so probably like a very elementary grade, but if they're pulled from class for any reason to, because they need that extra support, that they're still doing something related to addition, so that when they go back into the classroom, it's related to addition. They're not working on something completely different that won't translate.
Okay.
So I don't know if that exactly answers your question,
No,
but we
but it's
are,
close enough.
just like going to the chiropractor, everything has to be in alignment for our bodies to function best. And so everything in our curricular strategy has to be in alignment so that we're not doing this over here and this is down here and then that's,
I don't think, we are not teaching to the test.
That's,
we
So
teach the
we're-
standards.
Yeah, but this I think gives kids experience taking a test that's standardized, because you have to teach that part of it, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
But we are not, like if you
but
walk.
you know what I
if
mean,
you walk
we're
around,
not.
You are not seeing kids just practicing test prep. We
And
tried to still.
some schools, some schools that get great scores, they teach to the test for that purpose.
It'd be remiss for me to say that we haven't taught like test taking strategies.
That's-
But
that's
we're
great.
not teaching
To the test. That's not creating a curriculum for the test. Okay, thank you.
All right, and now just the same thing but with math. Again, really great growth from the start of the year. This is school-wide, so not elementary versus secondary. But at the start of the year, we had 26% of students in the green. Now we're at 69% of students in the green. And we've reduced the amount of students in the red from 19% to 9%. So 10% of those students have moved that way, which is good. And then just breaking it down further, like I did with the literacy or reading elementary, 24% of the students beginning of the year were early on or above grade level. Now we're at 75%. Elementary is doing a really nice job with that. And so is our secondary. But again, back to that question, I think Jeff, you posed it with why is sixth grade only at 52%? At the start of the year, we were at 24%. Oh, one more slide.
This one?
Did I not have secondary math?
I'm checking.
Did it skip?
It's possible.
Oh, it should be the next slide. But I can just speak to it because it's like the same
Okay.
graph.
Yeah, you
But
can
Okay.
just tell us.
the other numbers are basically, we were at 38% of students at grade level or above, and now we're at 58.
Yeah.
So still growth, not as like drastic as the elementary, but still seeing growth. And then I wanted to include some of our pre-ACT data. That would be the next one. I had to, so there's the composite score. So overall, our students, considering math, science, STEM, ELA, and reading, that's what the pre-ACT assesses, what the ACT will assess. Our students scored an average of 15.5, and then it breaks it down by different content area. In math, our average was 17. Now this is on a scale of 35 or 36, is ACT?
This one's
30.
less.
36.
Well, no, for this, I think it's 32 on this one, but yeah.
But it predicts
Yep.
like where they would score. And again, they're in 8th grade, right? So they're at the end of the 8th grade here. So we would expect them to be getting like 33s. But it's just good information for them to have. Science, we were at 15.2 as a mean. STEM, 16.3. ELA, 12.1. That was our lowest area. And then reading, 17.2. And so we definitely have some work to do and some digging to do around that ELA. I have questions, but we're not gonna discuss all of them now. But this is
It matches our school report card though.
It kind of, ELA's been a weakness for,
So that it's identified in two spots here then.
And it's not an excuse, it is, right, period, like functions and things that we use. I think that if I remember right, the mean is like, the average is like 15 to like 17 point something is like the good range to be in. right
Now,
now.
just a question for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. ELA is a spot we're
Yeah.
basically diagnosing we need some improvement in. Is that common at other elementary schools in the area? Is it a age level thing that we're running into that's cyclical, or is this just a Randall? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does. I think that at Randall, what I see is a really strong literacy resource K3. We have CKLA. And then like what Bob was saying with the recent state mandates for all schools, we're just inspecting literacy at such a higher degree than we were. And there is testing around that we're mandated to do, but we just have a pulse on it to a different level we ever had. So when it comes to ELA at the other grades, I think from my curricular lens, my curricular instruction lens, I am gonna come back to implementation. How is a curriculum implemented and how are we more consistent within a grade level? Like if you all four were teachers of 5th grade and you're all teaching the same curriculum very differently, you're going to get vastly different results. And so we've done a lot of work in PD this year on like planning out units and making sure we're not robots teaching like exactly the same, but we're on pace with each other and we're having discussions about what is happening. And so with ELA specifically.
Okay.
In general, I think there is a trend of like, because you're talking grammar, so that pendulum swinging, like 20 years ago where you had DOL and things like that, and it kind of went back the other side. I think we've talked a little bit, but like you are back at a spot where you still have to drill into some of those foundational pieces, and in ELA, that's what I would say that would be probably mostly equivalent.
I mean, even like 5 years ago, one of the current themes I had heard was like, oh, students will learn grammar through naturally reading. Well, there also has to be explicit instruction with it. You're not just gonna pick up on where a comma goes if you've never been taught to where it goes or practicing them, so.
Do we see a difference from kids who had COVID years of ELA schooling versus the ones who've come in and not had to have that remote chunk in the middle of it?
I think the kids who had the COVID schooling got the double whammy of COVID and then also some previous curricular resources that were not direct instruction and it's units of study from UC Calkins has got a really bad name. It's all how you implement something and the purpose behind it. It's not like units of study was awful or the worst, but clearly it wasn't working for large amounts of students, and it's actually some of those practices are.
Yeah, so we think about that. That's our 5th, 6th, and 7th grade kids who are kind of in the middle of that in their core, and that's where we see the dip right now.
That
I was just curious if that's a trend locally as well.
phonics is coming. Phonics is making a comeback.
I love.
But I would say you could go back 5 or 10 years pre-COVID, and you're going to see similar
numbers. Okay.
In general.
Yeah.
In general.
My computer locked out.
The quartiles.
Yes, please. This one I love. So this graph, and this is the last graph I'll bore you with, but the national quartiles, so the 1st to 24th percentile, 25th to 49th, 50th to 74th, 70th to 100th grade, those are the national. And then it shows us where our students, percentage of students rank. So 34% of our students for the composite score in that bottom quartile, 16% of our 8th grade students are in that second quartile, 29% of our students rank in that third quartile, and then 21% of our students scored in that top quartile composite. And then it breaks it down by all the different content areas as well. But I would really like to say, like, we have 50 on top, literally, and 50 on the bottom, and I'd like to shift that.
Okay.
And they said that if you're a 22 on that pre-ACT, puts you in the top 10%, which would align you to be like 28, 29 or higher on the ACT. If you took exactly where you're at the day you took it and it still went up with you, it would put you into that bucket potentially.
Then again, to our value added as a system, our quality of curriculum, our quality of teaching, and our whole system, not just teachers, but everything, I'd love to see this get higher or more skewed to the top 2 quartiles.
Am I reading this right? STEM. We have 38 in the lowest bracket.
Not
38%.
38% scored in that lowest.
That number seems to really pop out because it's the only one that's A over 30, I believe. It's,
40 in science.
no, 40 in science.
Well, and I believe STEM, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe STEM is they don't get tested on STEM, but it's the average of the math and science.
Oh, okay.
It's not a set, because they
Well,
only took 4
math and
tests.
science-
They don't take a STEM
No, math
test.
and science would be 62, so it'd be 31, not 38, right?
Well, 34 and 40.
74.
It's probably a weighted score because it's
Okay,
number of students.
okay.
So I'm
That
guessing
makes sense. I was just curious why STEM,
Yeah.
the number of kids popped up that high.
Any questions around this are good because this is the first time we've tried it, and then we can kind of figure out, okay, what might people want
You
to
know
know.
what, graphs are so easy to get the mind going. I love graphs for that.
And it's just.
It brings
data.
questions.
It does, so,
Okay.
and what else do we have? I think we have 1 or 2 more slides.
Yes,
This was our school learning objective. It was really based around iReady, and we have met a lot of the metrics in it. So that's something I'll be sharing out with all staff soon. That's a really good thing to celebrate, because that takes everyone rowing as one in the same direction. And then the last part of this, always thank you questions, but our leadership team just said it's our next iteration of what the SAIL team was. I put it out to staff, everyone was open to apply to it, and then we had like informal interviews for it. And so on the team is 1 rep from 4K to 2nd, 1 rep from 3rd to 5th, 1 from 6th to 8, 1 from Encore, 1 from Special Ed, and then like an outlier, or not outlier, wild card is what I called it.
Okay.
So we have a team of 6 teachers with myself, along with some of the other administrators and school counseling staff, or school student services staff. And we're gonna really dig in this summer, right before school starts. I wanna call it a leadership retreat, if you will, but how we're gonna operate and how we're gonna do business this upcoming year as a leadership team, and set the direction together for the school. And they're the conduit between their grade band and administration, and just how we're all going together. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
So is that where you guys are going to set next year's goals and that? So
That's, we're gonna do like I call it a leadership retreat, but it's really a day-to-day and a leadership
Yeah.
retreat, where we really go in depth with that data
Sure.
and like get way more specific, so that when we craft our plan, what are we doing specifically to grow in specific areas?
okay, I'm excited to see that because I know like year 1 is always, in my point of view and my experience, year 1's always the easiest goal setting because there's usually glaring pieces that you're like,
Then it gets more
this is what we're going to look at, right?
Yeah.
And you've made really good jumps this year, and then the decision is, do you go for smaller increases that are bigger percentages at the higher number, or do you drop a goal off that, not that you stop paying attention to it, but it's not a measurable goal anymore because it's a high enough score at this point. So I'll be curious to see where you guys land this year coming up.
One, it'll be tied to the strategic plan.
Yeah.
But I do just reiterate, when you look at, Alex, which one am I missing? There's one that's like,
Which one are you talking about?
this one. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
These are 2 areas, growth and targeted groups are identified areas, but like, those are areas that have potential for good jumps.
That is an interesting one, right? That we have high performing students, but we didn't have a lot of growth in that. I find that it's an interesting, again, is it just because it's harder to move if you're high performing so that growth isn't as evident, or is it
I think it's
something
what
else?
are we doing for our students, because that target group, that bottom, the next graph, no, the
That's-
green one, this is the students in our bottom quartile.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we're doing a lot for students across the board, but what are we intentionally doing for those students that are in that bottom quartile? Because the target group and the growth score are interrelated.
Yeah.
They're connected, so we're talking about a lot of the same students.
Yeah.
So what
You
are we
have to
doing?
make more than 1 year's growth to try to increase those scores.
Yeah.
And if you think like where we're at now, just for context, that target group has gone up. Now they changed the formula a little bit every year, so it's
Of course they do.
is 21 points higher than it was 3 years ago.
Okay.
So, and the other one is 16 points higher than it was 3 years ago. So, but with that intentional focus, like we were trying to like go, okay, let's have some consistency, adopting some new curriculums, implementing some different things, and we saw the achievement. These are the areas for us that like, okay, you could see a pop if you can hit this.
Well, and to me, these are students, but to be in, for 62% of K-8 schools to be better than us, to me, that's like a challenge.
Yep.
That's something I'm like, no, we can be in the top 75 eventually.
Yeah.
That's where I wanna be.
And I do like Randy's call out too of, and we didn't see any of this in the numbers, but how many students went from grade level and dipped? Like we might have had 20 that moved up, but did 5 move back? And
And we're just creating more of a problem.
yeah, we just don't see that piece because we see the growth, which is great. That'd be the other piece that I would, how do we maintain
Right.
the people who are at grade level or above and make sure they don't slip in the year?
Catch ones who fell behind
Mhm.
so that they don't do it again next year. So that
Yeah.
when you're dealing with the ones who need to grow 3.
And this year,
years,
well, this is the
10 years.
3rd year. Next year would be a great measuring tool too this year. Were there significant changes in the test or the scoring system between last year and this year?
Not supposed to be.
I mean,
There-
never really
It's
know.
not supposed to be, that's not the,
No, I think next year for the iReady, not the state report card, but iReady has made their diagnostic shorter, so it's not as long. So that would be one change, but it's still assessing the same
same
things.
principles?
Yep.
The state report card is supposed to be the same this year.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I'm expecting it
But
to
it's
be.
supposed to be the same for last decade too,
Yes,
so.
correct. But they
That's
did
okay.
say the last 2 years, last year and this year are supposed to be the same measurements.
Apples to apples.
But yeah, I'm assuming it will be.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have Bob's
Yeah,
update.
same, along those lines, you get to it. Just some feedback loops, student survey, I have the global view for you this evening. And then we also have Gallup just got closed, so that's not available, but we'll do that in June. We have the last couple of years, Gallup's the staff survey, so we have to kind of compile that still as well there too. And for student survey, just overall, I think I shared a little bit, the net promoter was 3.09, negative 3.09. And so this is, I know it was in one of the committees at least, if it wasn't the last board meeting with Jeff, just talking about asking that question. But we do have some good baseline data around that. And so I think it's always something good to look at. And you'll get a board copy of this, because I haven't gone by each grade level, that you can look at, like each grade. You can look at, it's 3rd grade and up, by the way. Yep. So you can look, and it has historical, this is now like the 6th, 3rd year of this same consistent survey. And again, I think the data is pretty consistent. I look at things like I feel safe at Randall, that has been higher and higher and good. The school rules applied equally. We've kind of dug into that one on the annual, and that seems to be typically like in classrooms, not necessarily administration. But again, to Alex's example, if you for our teaching, are we doing similar things for kids, same classrooms and kind of responding? We haven't gone in since that one, but that's what we found out the last year and a half as well too. The other one that kind of, as I was going through it, was I have a number of friends at Randall. Not that I want kids to learn, but they also have to feel like they belong and they have a space here. So, there's consistent patterns where scores are a little higher in the fall and they drop a little bit in the spring. But again, overall, we're at 78% this spring, which is higher than where we were on an average of last spring. I would like the net promoter score to be 0 or higher. But we can kind of have some conversations. We can drill in a little bit in June if you would like to.
The one number that you see that's kind of concerning is adults at Randall treat all students with respect.
So I was looking at that one, but this is where I think having 2 years of data is interesting, because look at fall of both years
Yeah.
and look at spring of both years.
In the falls, you're just coming in, they don't even know what they're asking.
So here's how I kind of read it. They are being held accountable, and
That is,
are you having accountability held to you, and is a kid thinking that is respectful, or are they thinking that is, I'm getting in trouble sometimes? If it jumped wildly this year and we saw that dip, I'd be more concerned. This is where I love having the 2 years, because it's almost identical.
You'll have
well, look at the one in yellow as well. It's kind of the same issue.
100%.
The two of them are correlated.
the
I
highest one
saw the
was,
same thing, I thought the same thing, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, you're there.
and you'll be able to look. We can also look. You can look at
Yeah.
trends in grade levels, which I'm gonna get. I believe that there are, right?
For sure.
Years goes on. The spring of 24 was 70 in that bucket. Just I couldn't fit it on the slide without it being
Okay.
too stretched out, but you'll get that there as well.
Like it's definitely something to keep a pulse on, right? And try and understand, like, is that word respect the right word? Is it being understood by how are they interpreting it? Like that's where some of these surveys can definitely be skewed, right? Like we think of respect as one thing, and they're thinking of as I get to do what I want sometimes. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. That's always necessary negative if it's tied to accountability versus just respect, right?
I mean, I kind of felt like fall, they come in, they haven't been here long,
Mhm.
they're still fresh, okay, now they've gone through the year,
They're tired.
maybe they're a little more crabby.
Well, fall is just, they're fluffy. I mean, they're just happy for everything. Oh, I'm seeing my friends. Oh, everyone's great. I love everyone.
But there also are some good pieces. Like I think the fact that more people felt like they had a friend at the end of the school year is a positive move on that for sure to see, and have that be the highest. That is a nice one to see on there. I enjoy going to Randall. Again, similar dip that we seen last year. I'm also not surprised at the end of a school year. Kids are like, not really. Like that's why we were talking about the Net Promoter Score, and it's a really tough. As much as I like Net Promoter Score, it's a really tough metric because the question for Net Promoter is, would you recommend Randall to friends and family? How many 8th graders are going to be like, yeah, I recommend my middle school to friends and family? But that is the Net Promoter question. Like you can't change it. That's what it is. So it also is a kind of a how are kids gonna answer that question? Like I'm gonna tell my friends they should come to my school? Maybe? Like
Well, you know what? One of the most consistent, and probably one of the most important to me, I feel like I belong here at Randall.
yeah.
That is
And that stays pretty
consistent,
flat.
spring, fall. That means 2/3, actually almost 3/4 of
Yeah.
our kids feel like they belong. That's probably a really good number.
I agree.
I mean, you'll never get it all.
I'll just jump on that one with you too, the two that I think are important. Well, I think they all are, that's why I left them there. And I'm open to always, but like, I believe I can learn and my teachers believe I can learn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, regardless of where our data falls, the kids have a belief, or
Yeah.
at least they feel that people expect them to learn, and I think that's also important, so.
Yeah. And I like the my teachers expect me to do my best at all times. I think that's a solid number 2 in the
No.
89% there.
Question, with the one that says, my teachers believe I can learn, shouldn't that be above 86?
I mean,
Don't you think?
It is
that-
at the beginning of the year.
It's at 92 though, still. I mean, in all honesty, you go to class, you would assume every teacher believes you can learn.
This is through the eyes of a child.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That I don't think, and I don't know what the numbers would be. Like this would be a good one to try and figure out. You would hope it'd be high, but at the same time, like when I was in school, I was a terrible speller. I didn't think my English teachers thought I was ever gonna spell correctly. So like, if you asked me that question in that class, I'd probably be like, no, they've seen my scores. Like they know I can't spell. And that's probably whether they believe it or not.
Yeah.
I'm probably the attitude of no, they probably don't think I can do this.
I haven't looked at it enough because they haven't populated all of it, but one of the things we have seen the last couple of years are an increase in, because it goes strongly agree, somewhat agree, neither agree nor disagree, somewhat disagree and strongly disagree. We have seen an increase of the, I don't disagree, or that has been typical, so, but you haven't really.
Yeah, that's the other breakdown of
Just
it,
wait
right?
to I'm not really sure.
So when do you think you'll bring back broken down by grade? Next month?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep,
Okay.
we'll do the Gallup and this in June, just so you can see those data. You'll get it prior, but we'll get it to you.
Okay.
I like that we do this though. I think it's a good pulse to be seeing what's going on.
And it's over the last 3 years, it's given us some areas that we've dug into.
Well, you
Trying
can
to be-
start building your strategic planning around your lowest 3 and your top 3.
Yep.
Or however many.
That's,
We've been
we've
doing
done
for
like, these are
years
the 3
now.
things we want to try and keep doing, and then here's the 2 things that we want to try and focus on.
Yep.
This is kind of just like an FYI, but I think this aligns to, the next couple of years. The state's doing the Portrait of a Graduate. They had a local listening session, which we got information on the day of from our area, so that didn't really work out. But they have been doing some, kind of listening, getting stakeholders engagement. To be honest, I think I found out about this a couple months ago when Jill Underley and some of her team came. I'm sure there was a note somewhere along the lines, because this would have been something I would have liked to have participated on, or at least offered up from the district level. But this is going to offer up like what we believe the state of Wisconsin wants for our children when they graduate high school. And again, we don't have that fluid K-12 system that can, across the board. But I think what we can really maybe do is talk to Wilmot and see, okay, what are you going to do, and then how can we support that work going up? And also as we look at like what the next version of like our mission and vision. I'm not saying we said changing that, but how does that align to some of this work as well too? And what do we think is most important for our kids? So I've been a part of some Portraits of Graduate work in other districts. It's not new work, it's just new for the state to do it as a collective. So I think it's pretty good. Some other just kind of updates, some state funding did not go through last week, which was disappointing. It would have been probably, up in my mind, probably one of the largest increases schools could have seen. One of the things just to think about, I think the best chance for funding is around special ed, because people agree on that.
But that's what got shot down. That was a majority of the budget.
Yep, and it got shot
It was
down
200 million got shot down
by the governor's team.
Because people
Well,
can't get along.
not only that, but it was tied. This was a political thing more than a state budget, in my opinion. Because it was tied to the refund.
It was on both sides.
Yes.
It was honestly one of the most bipartisan bills you've seen in a long time.
It was created bipartisan.
I know.
That's what
there was stuff on both sides that honestly.
Yeah.
There would be,
I don't get why it didn't pass.
there was optimism in district administrator, superintendent world.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've done intentionally here since I've been here is, I'm gonna say, limit our open enrollment of special education students. And some of that's just because of staffing and needs and, trying to, initially, I think, and try to kind of get our feet grounded here. That would have been the largest area for the increase. So some districts our size would have seen over $1 million of additional aid. I think we're anticipating, I can't remember, I think it was like 67, 70,000 would have been
Yeah,
additional.
it was close to.
But schools our size, and other schools might have been the opposite, because if you have a high population, especially kids going out, you might have had to pay more out as well too. So it didn't go through, and there are the 5, if you saw it recently, the 5 largest school districts put together a proposal to ask legislators to consider.
Yeah,
I think
just
it's
doing that.
probably the right thing to do from an educator standpoint, but I don't know that's going to change anything with the elections coming in November. So, staff time off allocations. We kind of talked about this, but for June committee and board meetings, we've had PTO this year. We talked about that a little bit last month. There's some things I think that are that were probably best to talk in public, but some details maybe that are right to share outwards just because they're specific to people. I think recommending, we had 10 days. I do feel like we should switch to 6 or 7 sick days, kind of like what we had. Yeah, I know, yeah, 6, 7, we can go that route if you want to. And then 3 or 4 would be considered general leave or personal leave. I'm going to convert to sick if not used, so very similar to what we have, but still trying to accommodate or provide some level of flexibility. The handbook still has the once in a lifetime request for every 3-4 years that allows people, if they have a wedding or something like that, they can put that in, we document it, we approve it, things like that. And then, current PTO was messaged as a pilot year. It allows for no more than 3 consecutive days as it is. So if you went to 3 personal days or 4, you could still have some of those options there.
So the one question I have with the PTO compared to going back to the old structured system, was there more time given to the school to find a replacement under the PTO? Because you said you were going to come back with a breakdown of the numbers you showed us last month.
Yeah.
Do you have all that stuff?
So I have some of it, but I think some of it's a different conversation too, just
Okay.
respectfully.
So I guess what I'm asking you, was a school given more hours of notice? And I'm going to say hours because a lot of times 6 calls come in at 5 in the morning when they teach at 8.
Yep.
So did we have more time under the PTO or under the old structured?
When I looked at the data, I don't know that I could tell a difference. Because this year we had about, if you want to talk about 90%, just about less than 90% of our time off this year was like FMLA. And then last year was about 70% was FMLA related. And so I think I saw more, and again, I think we saw more planning of days, but we still run into the same issue of people putting in if days so we cap days as well too. And then when those days get capped, we run into, I'm going to say, just challenges if people take time off or want time off.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Please?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, for this, I definitely feel like I feel like we're missing information. I'd like more information, whether that's closed session or whatever, but I just feel like, I know you had said the numbers last month.
I don't remember them off the top of my head, but
Something here,
There was a huge number of unpaid
Yep.
days off.
Yes.
That's really what we wanted broke down.
Yeah, and that's what unpaid time this year has been about 90%, just under 90% was FMLA.
Okay.
And unpaid last year was just under 70%.
FMLA.
Yeah, FMLA.
Yeah, so the biggest chunk of the unpaid was FMLA. So
That's the last 2 years. That's,
FMLA only allows so many days per roll over a year. And I thought it was like 30 that your job is protected for. So is that we just, they're over on FMLA, we just allow for 100 days? I guess I'm curious because
I'd have to find out the specific, I believe it's 12 weeks.
FMLA is
Yes.
unpaid, it's unpaid.
It depends. If they have if I have 12 weeks and I have 6 weeks worth of sick time, I can allocate 6 weeks of sick time, but I can also take off up to 6 additional weeks per Wisconsin FMLA. So then that would be going. I'll just use myself as an example.
Yeah.
When we had our daughter, Kaylee, who's now 19, as quickly as that goes, I had bank time because I had taught for 11 years, and then Ashlyn was born 14 months later. We had no time, so my wife took all of her time, and most of it was unpaid. And then I took a shorter period because we couldn't go, 2 of us unpaid. And so I didn't have that sick time, but I still was allocated that time for FMLA. So Wisconsin, I think it's 12 weeks.
it is 12.
Yeah, I just Googled it.
Yeah, and and it's rolling 12 months, right? So if I started it today and then I come back in now and I need FMLA again, it has reset for me. So it is a weirder.
And you could take off
benefit.
a month and a half from April.
It doesn't
to
have
the
to be
end of May,
consistent. Yeah,
And then I could take time off there, or you can do intermittent.
it just has to be once you start it, you do it for whatever days that you've done,
Correct.
and yeah.
Yeah. So I did not, at least in the last 2 years, look and feel like there was like just unpaid time because the largest chunks of it were.
It wasn't that they
falling.
used all of their PTO and were getting unpaid time, more days off because of that. In
Yeah.
general, is kind of what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's,
So I guess I feel like even if you're telling me 90% of our days are because of FMLA, changing your PTO policy isn't going to do anything. That's
Because
not like, you know what I
how
mean?
many
Like,
days did we have off that were unpaid? Wasn't,
It was extensive.
no, what I'm saying, 90% of 300 is only 27 days that we're really dinking around. Or if 90% is covered underneath FMLA,
Yeah.
and you have 300, that's 270 days. So really, we're only dealing with 30 days is what we're talking about.
that's what I'm saying. That number kind of
I-
starts to move.
It starts to skew the whole thing as to why are we taking it back when,
Yeah. So as I mentioned the last couple, so I think we had 231 days this year as of today, or sorry, the other day.
of unpaid days
Of
off.
unpaid, 203 of those were through FMLA.
So we're talking about 28 days.
So
Exactly.
the information on the switch would be, is the last time I talked to legal was with PTO in schools, you potentially have to pay it out, and that was something that they were working on.
Okay.
And so that was probably like for me, just not wanting to put additional dollars on the district if people wanted to get paid out, still providing that leave, just if it's semantics and changing the language, in my opinion, I felt like that puts us as a district in a better position. But that's kind of the reason. There are districts that have it, never came across that when we were looking at it. I don't know that there were any challenges to PTO prior. It's my understanding that there's a handful of districts that are being challenged on time off now with PTO and employee law. I don't live in that world, but I can get more information if you wanted. We can also leave it, but if there is payout and then someone wants to bank it, they could get paid out and just have to make sure we then budget for those days.
Yeah, when Bob shared that with me, I think that was what kind of made my
That's
mind
my driver.
open it a little bit on it. Is if PTO does become an accrual based system and it's a liability against the district and we have to hold on to those funds and blah 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 blah. Now all of a sudden you get outside of yearly budgeting for PTO or for days off, and now you're in a benefit conversation versus just time off. So if there is an accrual and there is a payout, I do think going back to this makes sense. If there is no accrual, there is no payout process tied to it, then we're just
It's semantics.
How do we find that out? I guess that's what we're asking.
I can confirm it if you want me to.
I would love that confirmed one way or the other, just so we actually know.
Yep. I think, my
I know what you're saying you believe, but.
No, my hesitation. My concern would be just I'm not gonna be able to get you an exact because maybe there's things in litigation,
Things
but
could
I
always
can at least
change.
share like, hey, as
As of today.
of June 10th
Yeah.
or whenever the next meeting is, this is what I was told. I can just shoot
Yep.
that email and ask that question.
How many days did you say were unpaid so far?
This year,
231. I'm
230. I think 231. I think is what I have totaled, and 203 are
FMLA.
allocated to FMLA.
Okay, cause 100, when you gave us a data last month, it was 199. So in a month, we've had an additional 30-ish.
But 90% of that was FMLA.
90% of that was
So
FMLA.
that's still off for that.
I'm just saying, in a month.
But that makes sense, right? Like if someone is on FMLA, they're gonna accrue about a month's worth of unpaid leave.
In a month.
How do you think this would be perceived by the staff if we change it back?
I
We did this, here's the reason why I'm asking. We sold this, you sold us, we sold it to the staff saying this is a positive. So I know we said it was a trial year, okay, we went through the trial year. Now I'm looking at data that really hasn't changed except for the potential liability, and that's a game changer.
That is.
If there's a potential liability. If there's not a potential liability, how do we feel the staff would react to this? Is this gonna be a negative to our staff? Perception?
I think there's
Does
no.
that-
I think there's no liability to it. I don't know why we change it. 'Cause it seems to me that it's basically apples to apples on the process of it, right?
I'm just curious, Alex, what have you seen, I mean, it's your first year, in your past experience, what have you seen? What are your thoughts on what we currently have?
Like I said, I worked in a building where people didn't sub in our building, so I'm grateful. We do have subs from Kelly Education that come in, because when a staff member in my previous building would take out, the burden would be on other people to fill their position during their prep. So
You overloaded.
that was a culture piece where like, it was a different culture, so I don't wanna compare that to this, but like, we didn't have as many people taking off because of the team aspect and the burden it would put on other
Yeah.
people that had to sub for you, because we simply did not have subs.
You did it to me, I might do it to you, kind of concept.
Yeah, and it was a different culture, a different school, different student needs, and so that was, it was kind of.
And I've been in spots too where you just don't have the budget for the subs.
Yeah.
So if it's out, then you're either collapsing classes or, covering it period by period.
Okay, so taking our school as what we're asking about, what is your thought regarding the change? Do you think it'd be perceived negatively? Would it be a negative impact on culture that you're trying to create with staff? Are we undermining what you're trying to create with staff by giving them 10 free days and no sick days and personal days?
That's a good question. I want to bring some talking points back. I think
And
you
I
have
don't mean-
staff who are always gonna take the time, and you're gonna have staff who don't take the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to be a motivator for staff to, I'd say not be sick, but like, how can I create a better environment here where staff maybe don't feel the need to take a sick day for mental health, for instance, if that is what it is, where it's not like you're actually physically, I can't get out of bed. Even though you might be able to not get out of bed for mental health reasons too. I'm going too far down, but like,
Yep.
what can I,
Honestly.
what can I do here, or how can we work together to make people take less time off in that sense?
So
If that is why people are taking off.
So if we give people time off, we should be accounting for the fact that every single one of them is going to take every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just the reality of what
And
it
that's,
is, right?
in all
Like,
honesty, in the
Yep,
normal
and-
working world
and that
outside of
that is
education,
that's total comp, right? Like they get paid, and then
Yep.
part of their compensation is benefits, and part of the compensation is days off. So to me, in my opinion on it, is the only thing that really matters is not the only thing that matters, but the biggest piece of it is: are we, from a financial standpoint, liable to pay things out if they don't use them?
Yep.
And if that's not the case, let's come up with a number and a policy that we're comfortable with. The number, like if every single staff member took every single PTO day, what is that number that we're comfortable with them all using? And that's kind of how we have to build that policy, because if you give it to them, you have to expect that they're going to use it. And I mean,
in all honesty, you think about a 9-week or 9-month work schedule. To get 2 weeks off in 9 months is like 3 weeks off in a normal world. A lot of people here get 3 weeks off. A lot of people don't.
the standard
Especially
is,
in the salary ranges we're talking about. That's not something that's usually offered. So, and that's why I'm asking, what would be a tool? What would be a positive? If we're really readdressing this, what can we do to make it a benefit? Do we,
Yeah.
if we're considering the fact that everyone takes these time off and subs cost X, do we actually consider buying them out? If they're not used, rather than roll over?
I had that written down, we talked about that as.
Yeah, wait,
taking a look and trying to rebuild that up or put it at a cap, I'm just making up a number, but if you save up to 50 and you move on, we pay out 50, I'm picking 50 days for no reason, but there are some spots now bringing that back, because that was in place
That
15
was
years ago.
But post-retirement benefits, we went from the far right to all the way to the left,
are looking at
saying
this.
no more. Now, I'm just saying, do we pay it out yearly? So if they didn't use it, instead of accumulating these, do we make some type of payment where if they only take 6 days, they know they're gonna have $600 at the end of the year, whatever that number is, where that may be a deterrent from picking up for that non-necessary, I'm gonna say, mental health day. And without going down the path, but you know what I mean?
The shift to PTO was trying to compete with non-education platforms because of some flexibility for people.
Correct.
Or, having them come in and just take unpaid time or lie, and then try to give, I got.
And it was also to try and help the convenience of finding a
That was the other
replacement,
part was.
because we would have prior notice.
If we go out the payout structure, I think it's got to be a win-win. Like, I wouldn't want to just pay out 100% of days they didn't use. That's not a win for the district.
Maybe 75%.
And that's what I'm saying. Like,
That could go to Budget Committee, but can we try to come up with a plan where we take this policy instead of just saying, hell, we're going from 10 of PTO to 6 and 4. Well, how can we come up with, we're making a positive
We have 5 and
impact?
5 right now, 5 PTO, 5 sick this year.
Okay.
Just for.
Okay, so
yeah,
if we're
I was-
5 and 5, so if they, somehow can we do it where we're trying to create a positive?
Well, how about, Alex and I will talk, come up with some stuff, options, and then bring it to committees, and then bring it to.
That would be awesome.
I think part of it is, and I totally lost my train of thought.
That's okay, we're gonna circle back.
We're gonna circle back to it, so.
I like that. I like that idea
Train of
though.
thought later.
What do you guys think would be the best received from once you know the legal question of is it accrued, is it payable? What is the best? What is the best for the staff? What is the best for the district? And is it a mesh between the two that we think?
And how do we create that win-win that you brought up?
Because it has to be good for both sides. Like, we can't do something that 100% favors one side or the other.
And it's gonna be a lot easier,
that's
it's gonna be a lot
kinda
better for our
generally
students if we have the
versus-
same staff in the building.
I'll confirm the PTO piece, when I find out, I will update you on a Friday, and then we can move forward with that.
Lisa, I think I keep hearing you guys say something. Do you have something?
How many people were on FMLA this past year?
Yeah, I don't wanna necessarily
You wanna
say
just
that
update us
publicly,
on
just
this?
because, I don't wanna identify.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, I just.
Maybe in your weekly update you can.
I can put in what I've got down for FMLA, in a weekly update and just let you know.
Should we talk about this, if we're gonna get into specifics, should we put it on a closed session for next month to discuss?
Well, let's see what the number looks like before
Okay.
and see if
Sounds
we
good.
have questions that we need to on that.
And if you have questions for this, either email me or let Jeff know so that just I can get them, so I can answer them, or try to find the answer or say, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
And then the last thing you have in your docs too is just the Education for Employment and Career Readiness Plan. This is basically ACP stuff, not basically, it is ACP stuff for K-8s. Usually this is done in your district-wide, but it's like, okay, where are you thinking you're gonna be career, college readiness as you exit Randall and go into high school? So you have that document in there. I think in conversation, Morgan was gonna come to the June meeting and just share a little bit about it, because
Awesome.
she helped organize it. Alex, you were part of that too, right? Or-
Yeah, she had shared it with me. It's not something I've looked at in depth at all. It's
I couldn't remember if you're on that team, but mostly the counselor, the school psych, Morgan, kind of put that together. There's a template, CISA 2 or 5 has handed everybody, so we kind of went through that. You have that for your review. I'll bring a little bit more to the learning and academics team, and then we can move after that.
But I thought we had asked that Morgan kind of come in and give us like some more info on the sheet.
Yep, and she and I talked about doing that in June as well too.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, discussion items.
The first one just was the policy on around leaves of absence. So I did confirm with Tim, you saw the note in there.
Yeah.
Easy enough to add it. Whatever you, as a board, would like us to add to that policy as far, or not, as far as approvals. Natalie and I will be meeting him virtually, working with him in the next, between now and June's meeting. If not, it'd be done before July. I don't know what else coming through on our plate, but there's just that option. So if you.
I think that's great. There's one other question though that I would like to see when you're talking to him. Can we tie this in that this cannot be used in lieu of or in any way tied to disciplinary action? Or,
I don't think that's a problem. But I will.
you know what I mean? Because this can't,
But we'll
we
confirm.
can't go.
We'll
If
confirm
you
that
could
with Tim,
confirm.
and we'll have a draft for you at the next one. And
Yeah,
then-
I would say draft it and bring it to the safety committee for
That would
policy
be
review,
awesome.
and then
Yeah,
next
we
month
could do it.
we'll.
We'll schedule our meeting around it, so you'll let us know when.
That's not a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, did I ask that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that,
Okay.
because she and I are on the same for that one. Policy updates.
So, sorry, really quick going back on the policy stuff that Randy was just talking about, and I think I wanna make sure that it's not, cause there's more than one leave. So, I don't know if we need to look at all of them, but just to make sure.
As far as the different types of leave,
There's just different policies. I don't know exactly which one covers what, but
could we get for our next meeting on the safety, and we bring the policies that relate to the leave? Is that what you're asking, Lisa?
yes, please, thank you.
She's so agreeable.
Just for you, Randy.
So we can,
Okay.
you and I can go through those and just,
Yeah.
then we can print.
There, if you give us numbers, we could go through them too, we could have access.
Yeah, we can
So-
print them though and then put them into the.
That would be awesome.
or send it to you.
Okay,
The second one is just policy updates. There's a bunch coming through. You will get, this is a discussion, but also you'll get an email from Natalie that has a bunch of things, and you can log into board docs and there's a draft. And then I'm happy to walk you through that if you don't know how to access that.
And you'll have to ask where they are, because I still do every single time. Like, which ones it is in?
I'll put instructions in there.
I just forget things.
We do have this update, we do have some policies that we just have to finish up some language based on different people and positions and school,
And
our
Natalie,
school
you'll-
specific.
You'll send the typical email that says, hey, here's the
Yep.
board
Yep.
updates in this folder.
Yep,
usually don't put a smiley face telling us to have fun reading through all these too, thank you.
I tried to put a little humor to it, I mean, it is
You look
riveting,
forward to the humor out
riveting
there.
material, but,
I think that's a little bit of misery loves company.
yeah, exactly. You just be lucky you're on this end of it, we had to do all of the other part, so, that'll be coming and we'll get this one approved, hopefully we'll get these policies approved in June. I'm gonna try to get that all out to you as quickly as possible. Look them over, ask questions, we'll do what we can to get them ready to go, because there is another update coming in July. End of June, beginning of July. So we wanna try to keep staying on top, because as you well know,
It's a whole
it's very, very overwhelming when you get 50-some policies to have to look through and try to decipher everything. There's a lot.
There's a lot sometimes.
Depends,
Some of
depends.
them are literally like, they're changing.
We have a policy manual that is this thick,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep.
Some of it's just technical corrections, which Neola just goes by law and they change it across the board for everybody. And we just need to know what those technical changes are, but we have to approve them regardless because
Do you
it's
know what
changing our
Neola
current
is?
policy.
Okay, we used to write our own policies.
Okay.
And we used to kind of word our own policies and adapt them to our district. It's incredibly cumbersome and time consuming for administration. But B, Neola was created probably a decade ago now. They make everything boilerplate that's legal. You can amend some as we're doing with the discretionary leaves of absence. We can make amends, but they make sure within the legal confines. Because when we first went to Neola, I bet 40% of our policies probably weren't 100% legal. They made sense to us, but would they really hold up? No, we got away with it because we're in a small district. Big districts, it was a huge problem. So that's what Neola is.
Gotcha.
It's just a tool, an outsource that we use to keep legal.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No, that's okay. Thank you.
you ever have questions, ask me or ask any of us.
So I'm working on developing my
They
option.
also
Okay.
recommend, that typically schools, K-8s typically pick this choice, or you don't need this one because you're not a K-12 system, or you need this.
Tim, our rep, our Neola rep, they're typically all retired superintendents and administrators that take this policy building on as, you know, for all of us. And it's really, it's great because it gives us that opportunity to not have to go through the legal understanding of it, knowing that legal's already been checked, everything's been signed and sealed and said, this is what's going on, state or federally. And then we get to go in and then work on our work session and make sure we get through all of those policies and pick the things that relate to us specifically versus something that we wouldn't have anything to do with because we're not a high school. So it's really nice because it sifts through all of it for us, but it does take time.
And it gives us a common playing ground as far as the policies, because there's a constant transition in public board of education as well as administration in a school our size. But it's just the way it is. Everyone's gonna hit a cap out, and then they go somewhere else bigger to make more money, or to gain more experience. So yeah, okay, sorry.
The
I'll shut up now.
last discussion's a big one, in my opinion. And so you have that doc, so I'm gonna stand up, because this is gonna fold, this is easier for me to explain. This on the left here, your left, my left, this is our current plan, and then these are two options that we have, that if we wanted to consider. So with our current plan, we mentioned we have about a 10.9% increase from this year. And so I asked Chris, we were waiting, our broker.
Yeah.
So this is literally the fourth year in a row that we have a really nice option to maintain the same network of hospitals, the same level of benefits. And if we were to go back to UHC, because we're with Anthem right now, and switch back to UHC, and if everybody stayed the same number of staff, same plan work, we would be about 126, just under $127,000 savings if we stayed with Anthem. So and when I saw it literally Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, I just asked Chris, and like a good lawyer or broker, they can't tell you what you should pick. He's like, I'm like, this makes no sense. Why wouldn't it change? He goes, you could consider that option, like a possibility. Even the deductibles go down for staff, whether it's for the single or family, as well as the out-of-pocket. The biggest change, that's kind of change, is I'm forgetting the language, but my wife and I, if we're a family, I meet half of the deductible and she can meet half of the deductible. So once I meet it, if I can still go to the hospital for $3,500, I'm covered. But she's got to pay to $35 or my family. The shift is, we're paying $35 for the family right now. It's $4,000, but it's a total.
Yeah.
So your family has to meet $4,000.
That's what that non-embedded means. So if you look at the current one, we're embedded, which means that it's individuals can meet it by themselves. Non-embedded is your entire family has to hit it for the co-insurance, the deductible to be met.
So it's I can't say which families that would impact or not. Will it impact somebody? Yes.
So it's a $500 difference when you kind of look at it. If you were doing a deductible in the old one, you would have to hit $3,500 as a single to hit your deductible versus $4,000 as a family now. The change in premium is about $3,800 a year. So even with that slight change in meeting the deductible, there's still, it seems like a positive, is how I was looking at it.
Okay, so time out, but a single deductible right now is $3,500,
Yes.
right? Single deductible on,
Anthem.
yeah, is that?
So now you're talking about United Healthcare, the single is 2,000.
Yeah, so it's a little lower for an individual versus a family. But as if you have a family plan, you don't have individual deductibles any longer.
Correct.
Yeah,
In your executive content, if you want to look closer.
it's on page 3.
In the insurance.
The only other thing, Bob, like he's pulling that up, the 80-50% there underneath the non-embedded. So we were fully, so is that
On page 3.
is that
I was down here
deductible
and I'm like,
Yeah.
plus 80% while you're meeting deductible, and then once you've met the deductible, it drops to 50%? Is that, okay. So instead of being 80% all the time, you actually have a benefit when you hit your deductible on this one a little bit more too.
Correct.
Okay.
The other thing just to point out is like right now the copay is consistent. So it's like, it's the same network, but there's like freighter to Milwaukee and then there's the other freighters. So this one is tied to, I'm gonna call them like the Children's Hospital, the freighter of Milwaukee. it's a $30 copay, but you can go to any hospital. I'm picking Freighter as one of the possible, but then it's $60.
Yeah, it's out of
if you
network.
go to Freighter of Bristol. But it still ties into all of your other stuff, and or your deductibles, as well as the copays kind of change a little bit. They're slightly higher early on, but there's not the high numbers of $400 or $500 possibilities. The max you could pay on a prescription is 70 days.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are you actually recommending here?
I am recommending that we change back to UHC and go with, I forget, the Nexus ACO OA POS. That would be my recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Because my understanding, and again, talking with Chris, is it's the same network, same hospitals, same general things. Will it impact somebody? Yes. Will it impact somebody negatively? Yes. Will it impact others positively? Yes. Because whenever you change insurance, something's going to happen. I don't know who those people are.
Yeah.
So, that's the piece. But from a district savings of $126,000, I mean, that is a staff member plus, that is dollars that we could allocate into fund balance if it's there, dollars you could put off to spend, to pay off something expenditures. It could be dollars that were.
We don't have to go to referendum for one.
We will not, I say this every time, we will not, at some point it's gonna flip.
Yeah.
And some of my colleagues in the area were like, they're excited with 4, 5, 6, 12% increases. My mentor, my people I talk to, like, that's why you RFP every year, at least you ask. And I will just give Chris a shout out. He has been great in at least giving us really good options for the last 4 years to consider. So the other one, this is a really great employee plan, but it does cost money. So I just put that one on there. This one, I for me, in looking at this at $120-some thousand,
That would free up money for time off, etc.
Sure, right.
I didn't say it, still go back into a benefit.
it would give you money, you could start a pot.
You could start a pot where if we're buying out at the end of the year, we're starting to get there.
So there are
That's a good
districts
option.
in our area that if they save money on insurance, they do put, I don't know anybody that's getting $126,000.
Is our experience rate that low this year? Did our experience volume go down?
Went up. That's why Anthem wasn't giving us a grade. They went from 15 down to 10. Usually we've been able to get our initials into the single digits, I think, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But switching plans, I mean, again, I don't want to switch plans every year because you have to go through it, but we can switch plans.
Oh, it's 70.
Should we look into this at all, or is it something we need to determine tonight?
Well,
I'm just asking.
yeah, so we have staff 9 more days. So to get the enrollment of July 1st, I mean, I guess I would wonder, what questions can't I answer right now?
Okay, I'm just asking, just
Everything that.
out of procedure, we normally like to bring stuff, think about it, talk about it.
And
If we don't have time, we don't have time, and that's what
I
you're
100%
saying.
agree with you, because Chris, since March, we've been asking, and he pushes for us.
Yep.
And Anthem came in kind of late, and then UHC came in now.
So I mean, one thing you could consider here is it's $127,000 net positive to the district, right?
Yep.
We are saying your deductible is most likely going to go up roughly $500 is what we're doing here. We cut that 126 in half, and we split it between the 90 or so people that are on insurance plan. That's roughly about a $500 piece.
We could just do a $500 HSA to make up for it.
Yeah, you could do something like that, and
We could do something like that to make them whole on their.
Where's it going up?
The deductible's going down, not
Where's it
up.
going up?
No, I said it's going down.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm saying no. The deductible, the family deductible, right? So
The family
I go from a deductible, a single deductible of $3,500 that I could hit as an individual,
Yeah.
even within a
Yeah,
family.
okay.
Where now I have to hit a $4,000 deductible as my family to get there. So you could say
So
that's
if one
a
person in the
negative.
family gets sick,
But
but
they only get to $39.95 and no one else gets sick the whole year. You didn't meet your deductible. Where in the past I would have.
that's where you kick someone in the shin and take them to the doctor.
So, but that's my only. I mean, there's a couple other things here and there in it, but I mean, overall, it looks like a really good plan. That is pretty flat, quite honestly.
I mean, and we can spend some time between now and like when we get back. We know
Yeah.
we got the money. If the plan was approved, we could take that, put it aside for now. We could look at, okay, when people register for insurance, maybe what we need.
But if we're gonna try and get them paperwork in the next 9 days, is what you just said.
I'm talking about like the backside.
Okay.
We could. Lisa, do you have any questions on which one?
No, don't.
No, I think it's a good plan. I mean, I hate looking at insurance paperwork. It makes my head hurt every single time I look at it because even at mine at work, I was like, that says it's the same as last year. Click. Like,
So if we're getting people to sign up, do we have to, or should we disperse some of the savings into an HSA at the same time so that they're aware that this is part of what we decided? In other words, we're basically saying here, sign up for new insurance, your deductible went up, but we may address it later on.
yeah, I don't know how, like, I don't know the rules around if we can fund HSAs and stuff like that. So I don't know.
We have HSA.
We have in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a nice gesture to consider. I don't know the exact number on it, but I think, that is a significant savings to us as a district. Looking at what is the right percentage to, again, that's that win-win mentality. Like, what's the right percentage to fund back towards people versus not? Is it just, is it folks that do the family plan because are we on the first column or the second column for our? It's $3,500 for single regardless. So single plans are actually going the right way on deductible. So is this maybe just something that we do for people who do a family plan because that's the one that's being
Right, I don't
impacted?
think we have to do it across the board. So. Just see who signs up and.
1 second.
I mean,
double check something. Timing is not great, like just because it's a big decision. But I also would just say that in talking to Chris, just double check. My goal has always been same level of network, same provider, like same kind of care. Like we've had options in the past where we've had to like consider reducing hospitals because you can only go to like Bill's hospital, you can go to Steve's hospital because of that network. We haven't had to do that.
Okay, so question, with the new plan, how many are our local hospitals that we currently covered with the new plan?
Yes.
Yep.
The copay goes up possibly from 50
The copay is one thing, but as long as the same providers are.
Yes. And so we have approved the last couple of years, I was just double checking this. HSAs is $1,250 currently for singles and $2,500 for families. So we have those HSAs.
And that's built into the budget. Is that part of the 15 or 18% that was built into the budget, or is that additional?
That is built into the budget. That was not part of the.
So it's a separate line item in the budget, not the increase in insurance.
Correct.
So if we took that, what was the numbers last year?
$1,250 for single and $2,500 for families.
I think you could keep the single the same because again, they're already getting the benefit of deductibles going down.
Right.
And then you put 500 into the family. You take the 2,500 to go to 3,000 for family plans, and you're covering the increase in the deductible.
I don't know how you're gonna sell that. Like, because I don't have a family, I don't get the money. Like,
But you're getting,
We're
but
just
you're
making
getting, but you're
sure
getting the
deductible
savings.
is covered.
yeah, but so is the family.
They're not though, because they have
They're
to.
not.
They have to hit a higher deductible before they get the additional co-insurance. So is that
Because the single is actually saving $1,500 out of pocket
on their deductible?
on their deductible before they hit the co-insurance. Whereas right now, being it embedded, the $7,000 could actually be a $3,500 hit by Madam X, and that means she is now eligible for all co-insurances.
And it isn't uncommon to look at plans separately. I mean, just
Right.
at my office, we increased how much the company is covering on family plans, but the single plans already were at the 80% company coverage, so they didn't move because we were already at that mark. But families, like as a family plan, I actually paid less insurance than someone who was a single this year because of the shift in it. So you can look at them separately.
Yeah.
It's just, is that what we want to do? I mean, it's an option, right? Like that's one way of looking at the increase that we have there and who got impacted by
And I don't know how many
quote unquote
people have
increase.
family plans off the top of my, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, even I just did the math just so everyone knows. If we assumed all 86 people were family plans, it's about a $43,000 hit, which is about 60. We still have 66% of the savings going towards the district.
Correct.
So I mean, you figure a majority of those aren't going to be family plans.
And in
So
all honesty, their maximum out of pocket, from what I'm seeing here, drops from 13,300 as a family to 8,000.
Right,
So you limit
Yeah, so
their
that's what they-
exposure a huge amount.
right.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's
I mean,
wins all over the
you
place.
go
Even if I
from
was doing
4,000
anything else on HSAs, there's wins all over the place in this plan. It looks like.
And you could put some of the savings into fund balance if we wanted to save it to offset if there's a rainy day with insurance, or you could put it into for sick day payment, I mean, we could come up with lots of options, but you could take that, and say 60,000 and set it aside for another day. Because right now, the budget is in good shape for next year, so it's not like we need that.
So tonight you just need to know,
We don't need to decide any of that tonight.
No,
you just need to know what plan we're picking tonight.
I make a motion
Well,
to,
Well,
we're still in discussions.
yeah, so
But I'm-
the options were either to continue with Anthem. like
Yeah,
if we
or
don't
to switch
change,
to UNC.
Or I would recommend that we switch to UHC, because what would happen is I would let Chris know and he would send me my paperwork, I
Sure.
would sign off on it tomorrow, and then hopefully before the end of the week, get paper and then start having people update and fill out so we get it before June, and that gives us a month to make any corrections, so when Melissa forgets to put her kids down and stuff like that, which happens, right? Then we can follow up and be like, you probably want all your children on this list.
Well, why don't we approve, I mean, when we get to the approval, why don't we approve which one we want to, and then we can take a look and see how that impacts all our numbers, all our budget, and then if we want to make a change to anything else, I mean, you can after it, right? Like,
Yeah, and still the 1250 and the 2500 in the HSA is still pretty considerable.
I would keep those in, yeah.
It's still a nice benefit in the same in
Mhm.
our area. Adding to it obviously becomes a better benefit,
Mhm.
but we're not in a rush to do that. We have,
Yeah.
time for that. Yeah, we can always make an adjustment even if it comes in August and
Okay.
making that.
All right, any other questions on insurance?
Nope.
All right, so then we have action items, we have approval of the personnel report, which there is a lot in there, a lot of documents in this one.
yeah,
Well, I was asked for some the sample
Yeah.
stuff, so I just I'm putting the stuff in exec content so you just have it archived.
Mhm.
But there is the personnel report and a couple of the new contracts as well.
So,
I move to approve the personnel report as presented.
Wait, hold on, sorry, but the fringe benefit package is in there, and that,
we're not,
That is already approved, so we're not,
the two tiers, could I,
it's what we approved on October 20th of 2025.
okay,
That's just the old one.
This
This
is
is
just
the latest one we did.
We're not approving a new thing with this approval.
yeah, so the only thing being approved in this one tonight is the personnel report.
Yep, and there's an updated one from today. We added school psych.
Yes.
He put in the examples of the contracts that we asked for. We asked to see the fringe benefits, because we never changed anything on the fringe benefits
I
since
know, but
October.
there's contracts in this as well.
Right.
We're approving the contracts.
No, just the personnel report.
no, here's the question though. We've got contracts in this, so you're just doing the personnel report, we're not approving any contracts, is that what you're saying? Or is it personnel report include the contracts?
So the personnel report, we have the business services manager that is in there.
Yep.
And then the school psych that's in there from
Yes.
a higher.
That's the only two
No,
contracts?
that isn't- No.
No,
You also
okay.
have pay-
Contracted staff is in there, that
There's
says,
the-
that's
Yeah.
Morgan, Peyton, Natalie, but
No,
those
you have-
are
you
all
have-
on there, are we approving
Okay.
their contracts too?
Hold on, Lisa, Bob's gonna tell you.
It's the same. It's the same from last time. You have Peyton's. You have Katie's. Those were also as requested. Those were Peyton's was updated from legal whenever we hired Peyton officially. Katie switched from hourly to contracted in October, so she goes on that. That's a 1 year. That is there as well. The school psych is in there and the business manager's in there. Natalie and Dan and Morgan's as well too, which was in there from before. Those were from last month as well. And then Natalie and Dan's just rolled over with the percentage increase as in the personnel report, which is the same from last month.
Okay, I guess my question is, I understand from the last meeting, we have created a contract that's got a second tier administrative benefit package when they're not administration, is that correct?
I'm not sure who you're asking about.
Okay, so it's hard to say this in open session, so I'm going to, what's the best way to put this? I think 2 of these contracts should be taken out of here, so we could discuss this in closed session. Okay, I can't bring up names, I can't bring up situations, I can't bring up any type of
Understood.
details.
So we have a discussion of staffing on closed session. Are we able to talk about those in there or not?
And we'd have to bring it back at a later
Staffing.
date to approve those 2
Or
contracts.
No,
we table
why
it
couldn't-
and
why-
then when we go back in
Open
open
session,
session, we
approve it
could-
after if we get to that point.
Okay,
Would you like
Well,
to?
we don't have an approval on the agenda, but
From,
We-
Like if you, it's not specific to closed session, that's what you're discussing and then coming
Okay.
out
Coming back
and
out to
approving
vote.
those
So we
contracts.
can't come out and vote.
Okay, so we're gonna have to put another meeting on the calendar for this week to get that approved then,
That's
which is
up
what
to
we can
you.
do. No, I mean, we have to get them approved, correct?
Legally, no, but
Sure
yes,
they would like them.
we would like them.
Alright, so we can, then we, if
Okay,
you,
but this doesn't even make sense though, because there's two personnel reports on here and one's old, so then there's one updated. I didn't even realize there was an updated one, cause that's,
Because I,
Cause it says that it's updated there
updated 'cause I
because
put
of the
the school
business
psych on it.
manager, oh.
school
so
psych was on it today. I just left
And then
everything in there so you
it
have all the
goes
time.
under a teacher contract?
The school psychs, yes.
Okay. Alright, sorry, it just is confusing because the old one was still on there.
Yep, I just left
Well,
it just for
if we're
documentation.
gonna discuss this later anyway, we can probably just discuss it later.
yeah, so we can, if we wanna, so
Okay.
so why don't do we wanna approve anything on the person? I think,
So we have to table it then.
so we'll table personnel report if we're not gonna,
We'll table
So
personnel.
are you making the
Well, I made a
motion then?
motion, so
So-
do I have to unmake my motion?
or we
Yes,
second.
we're just gonna,
There's not gonna be a second, so it won't
there's
carry.
not gonna be a second, so it won't carry, so you can redo a motion.
Well, I'm not making that motion, you can make that motion if you'd like to table it. I don't
Sure,
wanna
I'll
table
make a
it.
motion to table the personnel report as presented.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Next one is the approve or deny the 26-27 open enrollment applications.
I move to approve the approvals and denials of the 2026-2027 open enrollment applications in and applications out as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And
It
insurance.
says WAC agreement up there, but on your docket it doesn't.
I make a motion to move to approve insurance with UHC as presented for 2026-2027.
I second.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, committee updates as needed. So, what is it, safety or? what did we-
Safety,
Finance,
With finance, we talked about insurance. We talked about how we have to go over the fringe benefits thing, business manager opening. Things like that.
Yep, that's about it.
safety and, what was it, safety and concern?
Yep, safety.
safe and orderly school.
Safe and
Safe
orderly
orderly.
school.
There, well,
We did a walk through the school. It went very well. We're just trying to come up the long-term game plan and short-term. Went through hallways, flooring,
yeah, second school's out, June 22nd, the flooring project starts, so it'll take a couple weeks. Things like the PTC bought the scoreboards, those, hopefully we're gonna get those
Table.
installed before the floor gets refurbished.
I was gonna say, can we get that done
Trying
prior
to
to?
expedite that, so.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome,
Yeah, I think now we have some topics for June.
great.
We also talked about policy stuff, so,
Correct.
which we already talked about in this meeting.
Okay. In engagement, we talked about the contracts that we just tabled, and student surveys, staff surveys, and all that stuff, so.
Learning and academics, I can do it
Yeah,
if you want. We talked about class schedules for next year. I read a portrait of a graduate and the 8th graders doing ACT, possibility of looking at 7th graders doing that in the future too. So that's committees.
Okay. Then we need a motion for executive session.
I make a motion to convene into executive session per statute 19.851C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No one.
All right, hold on.